Well, hey there. Welcome back to Streets and Eats. And this is episode 118. And we're talking about Volksmarching, which is basically hiking all over Europe.
Yeah. Something we've been doing for, as long as we've been together, really.
That's right.
Pretty close to it. With a little gap here and there when we weren't living in Germany, which, I mean, at the time, we didn't know that there was Volksmarching in other countries, like outside of Europe. Otherwise, we probably definitely would have continued.
We would have, because it's one of our loves. And we'll explain why here in a second. I'm scared.
Yeah, you should be. This is a simple question for you. What is the longest Volksmarch in Europe?
I believe the longest Volksmarch in Europe is called the 4 Days March, Nijmegen in the Netherlands. And it's been going on since...
It's a long one.
Since the end of... so it's not the right answer?
No, but keep going.
But it's been going on since the end of World War II. And it happens every year. And maybe it's the longest one that happens continually every year. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But it's one that I have on my radar. In fact, it's funny that you should mention that because just this morning, I always get up before gym and I always do my internet searching. And just this morning, I was on the 4 Days website looking about doing it for next year.
When is it?
It's always in the late spring,
summer, right?
Early summer.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't do it until next year. And every day you have to walk either 30, 40, or 50 kilometers.
Oh, I thought it was 100 kilometers total.
Well, if you walk 30, it's 120.
Oh, okay.
And 160. And
so is it like one continuous trail that you can walk on, or do you walk different?
No, it is one continuous trail. However, it's a one trail for one day. Then the next day is a different trail.
Right.
And each day they have a different color. Like the first day is blue day. So everybody wears blue. The second day is pink day. The third, anyway, it's a thing.
Okay. Well, that actually might be the official true answer to this question. But in my research, I discovered that there is a European long distance path. There are several of them actually.
Mm-hmm. But I know there's a bunch in England, like Hadrian's Wall and
right.
That kind of stuff.
The Brits are really good at setting up walks and treks. But the E3 European long distance path, or just the E3 path as it's become known, is I have to read this because it's a very specific number, 6,950 kilometers long, 4,320 miles.
And it's IVV?
It goes from Spain into France through Luxembourg, Belgium, Germany, the Czech Republic, Slovakia. And then a short stretch in Poland, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria, where it comes out at the Black Sea.
So wait a minute.
So the idea is it's going to start in Portugal, but that section hasn't been completed yet. So you'll go from the Atlantic.
Well, does it count? I haven't.
No, I'm not counting that part. The distance that we have, 4,320 miles, that is full trail from point to point.
And
is it all IVV? No, but
then it doesn't count.
IVV Europa Cup has encouraged people to take on different stretches of it and incorporate those into their IVV events. So, yeah.
I think this is cheating. I think I got the right answer
so
and he's full of,
is the whole thing actually from one end to the other an IVV sanctioned trail that you're going to get credit for? No, but there are stretches all along it. And the intent is that eventually that will be the case.
Well, when that's the case, I'll have a different right answer. No, I don't. I mean, I think that's interesting and maybe something, but I guess I don't really understand it.
And I'm wondering now, sorry, I'll let you finish.
Are you going to be able to start in one place and then hike and then spend the night somewhere and then hike and then spend the night somewhere? Are you supposed to do 10 a day, 20 a day, 30 a day? Like what? I don't really understand how this supposedly
becomes
works.
IVV sanctioned. Well,
no, not just IVV sanctioned, just in general. Like right today, could you go?
Oh, yes, you could. You could definitely start at the starting point in Spain and walk all the way to the Black Sea in Bulgaria. And yeah, you would walk 20, 30 kilometers, spend the night somewhere, continue walking. Now, I don't think that that's the intent. Like there are some long walks in Germany and Great Britain and all over the place that are like a couple 100 kilometers. And the idea is that you would walk the whole thing over the course of 2 weeks, that type of thing. Or there's like the St. James Way, the Camino, that can be 1,000 kilometers long, depending on where you start from. And you would walk maybe different sections of it at different times, and you'd pick it up maybe next year and do this next section, that sort of thing. I think that's kind of more what this is. However, what I was going to say earlier was that the Europa Cup, one of the specific Volksmarching challenges, I guess, that we're doing, encourages people along the route. So it got me thinking, I'm wondering if the Europa Cup challenges that we have done, because we've done a couple now, right? 2, one in Austria and one in...
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
The IVV Europa Cup?
The IVV Europa Cup, which I was going to talk about later, is a challenge where you just go to IVV countries and do an event.
Right. But the idea is that they want those events to go along this path so they can link up as many of them as they can as IVV events and Europa Cup events.
That's not what the Europa Cup challenge says.
No, I know, but that's definitely one of the things that they talk about on the website and are definitely not necessarily like moving towards what it's going to be, but part of what it can be.
Okay.
That sort of thing. So I'm kind of wondering if we have done a couple of the Europa Cup challenges. I wonder if they were
saying that we've done walks in different Europa countries. We have not done multiple challenges.
We've only done one Europead.
We've only done one Europead.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about is the Europeads. I'm wondering if it was on this path. I'd have to go back and look and see if it was. It might have been, actually. It's a good possibility
to check into. Anyway, I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't agree with it. I don't think it's not even a reality yet. So I don't know how you can.
Well, it's not technically all IVV for sure. There's just IVV events that are on the path in different places. So,
okay, so what are we talking about? What is IVV? That's the International Volksmarching Club. What is Volksmarching?
Volksmarching is hiking. Yeah, fitness walking. Hiking along a marked trail for specific distances that you keep track of and that are officially tracked so that you can get a total count, a running total count of events that you've gone to and also
achievement awards.
A number of kilometers and then achievement awards based on there's different tiers of how many kilometers you've walked or how many events you've been to.
Exactly.
That's the basic one.
Yeah. So how we got involved is many, many years ago when we were living in the Frankfurt area. We had lived in Germany more than that, but when we moved to the Frankfurt area, Volksmarching was very popular. And we've always been associated with the military communities because we taught for the U.S. military and we were both in the U.S. military. And we still live in a military community, actually. And so there's typically been clubs that have been part of this Volksmarching, the Deutsche Wanderung Society and organization. And every weekend they host different hikes in different areas. And so then Germany and Austria and Liechtenstein and I'm forgetting something. Belgium?
Was it Belgium that all got together and made the IVV?
Yeah. I have it written
down. Do we have it in our notes? Yeah. Germany, Austria, Liechtenstein, and Switzerland.
Oh, Liechtenstein and Switzerland. They all got together and they formed the International IVV. And so basically what that means is there's this governing organization that says you are a sanctioned walk so that you can be advertised as one. And it only happens on this weekend of this year in this place. And then it runs through all these rules and it has met this criteria and people come from all over and they do the walk and then they get a stamp which they collect, and the stamp tells you the year, the country, and the number of the walk of it. And then it also tells you how many kilometers you've walked. And they range from, well, I've seen them as low as 4 kilometers up to
50.
Well, on a normal one-day walk, I think the longest I've seen is 42.
42.
But
marathon.
like I just said, the 4 days one, they do have a 50 kilometers. So there probably is larger ones. I just haven't actually paid much attention to them because we're not there yet. No. We typically will do a 10 or what's 10, close to a 10.
10 to 15. Depending on what's available.
And that takes, a 10 kilometer takes you about 2 hours to walk. So you know how much time it's going to take. So why do you need a governing organization? Why should we be part of the DVV or a club?
Because these trails are out there all over Germany, all over Europe. Where you can just get out. There are guidebooks you can buy. There are apps you can download that show you specific trails. There are themed trails. There are bike trails all over the place.
There are kids trails.
Do you need the IVV?
You don't need them.
You don't need them. But it is a group, a club that you can be a member of. So there's that social aspect. And the walks themselves are kind of a social event as well, where they're put on by a club, and there'll be all kinds of different levels of, what you're going to find at a Volksmarch event.
We'll talk a little bit about that, but I think the major difference is what you just mentioned. So the DVV walks, there are some permanent walks, but there's also ones that just happen on the weekend. So for example, this weekend on Sunday, we're going to France, and we're going to be doing a walk in France. It's not that far away. It happens once a year or maybe twice a year. Sometimes they have more than one a year, but it's not a permanent walk. Have we done permanent walks in France? Yes.
Yeah.
And you can still get your IVV stamp doing it that way. And we like to sort of combine and do some permanent walks and do some event walks. We like to do a lot of event walks. And they have different themes. Sometimes they're a guided walk, which means someone's actually taking you on the walk. I did a guided walk not too long ago that was, whenever you do a guided walk there, they're just so beaming about the area that they are.
Someone is showing off their area.
They're showing off their house, their backyard. And in this case, he knew he was doing the guided walk, so he went to the town council and he got the keys to the museum.
Oh.
And so we got to have a little tour of the museum, and that was just really fun. It was really cute because there was 2 Americans, my sister and I, and a bunch of people from the area, actually. And I think there was only maybe 12 people on this entire walk. And so the guy's like, is anybody interested in going through the museum? And every single person, because all the other people were locals, they were kind of like, you can kind of see them do we just want to get finished, said they need to go to our museum. And pointed to us. I thought it was the sweetest thing.
So even though they didn't want to go, they're like,
they were like, yeah, we need to show off our museum to them. I thought that was so cute. So that's a guided walk. Sometimes you have children's walks where they'll have like a tic-tac-toe board, or I know when they handed out egg cartons and you could collect different things along the path for that. So they have kids walks. They have night walks. We're going to a walk in December that goes through a Christmas market. It's a Christmas market walk.
That's right.
They have.
We did a beer walk.
We did a beer
recently.
Walk. Yeah. I mean, they have all kinds of different themes. They're just different events. They're always showing off a local place. And what I love about it the most is you're going to places that A, you've never heard of, probably, and B, you would never have a reason to go otherwise. But that doesn't mean it's not spectacular and there's something really cool there. Like we just went to one in Belgium not too long ago, and here's these burial mounds. Now, the burial mounds probably aren't something that I was going to seek out and go to.
Right.
But it was very cool that they were on the walk.
Like old Celtic Roman burial mounds in the middle of nowhere. I had no idea they existed, and we walked right by them and had a chance to explore a little bit. Yeah, I agree. One of the biggest draws for me is that the whole idea of that you're going to go somewhere new, somewhere different, somewhere you would not be going most likely. Are there Volksmarches in the bigger areas along the Rhine River or along? Yeah, of course there are. And those are spectacular, and we'll do those too. But yeah, getting to those little dwarfs, little villages where somehow there has been a Volksmarching club that's been active and continuous over the past 4 or 5 decades. And this is a big event for them. So they'll pull out all their stops. There'll be a little beer tent. They'll have a barbecue, a grill set up. The local, men and women will bake cakes to sell. And it's some of the most, for me, especially those baked goods. Yeah, I'm going to
burn. It's like going to grandma's house.
I might burn 300 or 400 calories on the walk, but I'm going to take in at least that much with the cakes and the coffees.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they also have lunch, and a lot of times, sometimes they'll have a band, not always, but sometimes they'll have some type of entertainment. The way you do this is you pick a walk that you want to go to, and there's a book that I'm actually buying on Tuesday for the rest of next year. But it's also on websites, and you can find
for 2025.
For 2025.
Oh, cool. Good.
And then, so you pick a walk, you pick where you're going, near or far, then you have to drive there. It's, most of the year it's kind of chilly, and you've got your hiking boots on. It's just kind of a feeling too.
If it's summer, you want to go early in the morning to avoid the heat. And so then you get sunrise, and that time of day is beautiful.
And so then you get to the start and the end point, which is usually a sports hall or something. And you buy the start card, which costs in Germany €3, but depending on what country you're in, it could differ. I think in Luxembourg, it's only 50 cents.
Yeah.
Or Belgium, it was only 50
cents. €1 or something.
Something like that. It's cheap. And what you do with the start card is you write your name on it, and then you take it along the walk with you, and you come to a couple of control points, and you hand the card to them. They stamp it, and that's sort of your proof that you've done the walk. Meantime, they will either sell you a treat, or sometimes they'll have some things for free depending on the club.
Drinks.
They always
drinks
will have
for sale, water for free, and a lot of times they'll have what they call a sport tea,
or a broth,
which is a sweet tea, sweet iced tea, or a broth, some type of warm broth, especially in the wintertime when it's cold outside. That's pretty popular. So so bring your own little cup.
Yeah, you have to bring your own cup. Sometimes they'll have fruit that they'll give you. A lot of times they'll have candy, and I've even seen around Easter time, they'll have colored eggs. Yeah.
That's cute.
It's just really, that's a nice little stop, and you talk to the people, and then, or not, and then you move on. And typically during a 10K, you would have 2 control points. Right. Typically. I mean, everything varies because they're run individually by these different clubs. And so even though there is a general way of things happening, there's lots of wiggle room in there as well.
Well, because it's part of an official governing body, the IVV, they definitely have rules that specify how many controls there must be, but then there can be more than that. But the minimum levels, I'm sure, are definitely specified. Differences, like if it says it's a 10K, there's probably leeway on either side of that to still be officially counted as a 10K. So you might only walk 9.2 or 9.4, or you might end up walking 10.3 or 10.4.
Yeah. There's definitely a little bit of variation. I mean, it's going to be just by the nature of what we're doing.
Yeah.
So then you finish your walk and you go to the end point, which is where the start was as well. You turn in your start card, and that's where you take your booklet of wherever you are on the list, and you get your official stamp for the walk, and how many kilometers you've done. At the end of different amounts, you get a certificate, and they keep everything in this Abzeichen pass, where they mark all the events that you've done and how many kilometers you've done.
Yeah, the different levels you've gone to.
Then there's also additional challenges, which we kind of mentioned. We're currently doing 2 additional challenges. Right. One is the Europa Cup, which we mentioned. And really all that is you had to go to one Europead, which is a huge walk that includes people from all over Europe.
Really large event.
That is both IML, which is a different marching club, and IVV certified. And the one that we're going to next is in Finland. No, the next one is in Belgium, and they're going to have a bike race. They're going to have swimming as well as the hiking. So it's more than just hiking too.
And those are big events. So typically it's a much bigger venue. I'm expecting there to be a little bit more on offer as far as the food and drink and how many people are attending. And like even at the last one, no, that was a 5 Nations. That was not a Europa Cup. So
no, but it was also the International Hiking Week.
But it was also IML. That's true.
Anyway, so then you have, and so the other thing with the Europa Cup is that you have to do 10 walks in 10 different countries. And we're currently, even though we've done some in a couple of more countries, we haven't necessarily recorded them. So I think we have 4 recorded, and we have 2 or 3 coming up real close on the books. So we're very close to getting our 10 already. I was kind of hoping I could do it by the end of 2025, but I think that's going to be pushing it. So
2025?
Anyway, I mean 2024.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be pushing it. We'll definitely have it at the beginning of 2025. And then the second one we're doing is a different challenge called the 5 Nations Challenge. And that is where you have to do, there's 2 different routes you can take, a 333 route or a 666. And that's the amount of kilometers you need to gain the achievement. And then you also have to have been to an event in one of each of the 5 nations that are participating. Then there's
and that one is timed, so you have we have to be done with it by 2026, I think.
Yeah, it's a 3-year challenge. And there's all kinds of challenges. If you're in the United States, you can be part of the IVV, and there's walking clubs all over the United States, and there's IVV stamps, the same system of all of this. And their own challenges. Like up in the Pacific Northwest, they have a troll challenge. So you go around looking for trolls, which I think would be a lot of fun. If I was there, I would be doing that, but I'm not there. So it really depends on where you are and all the different challenges that are available to you. So that kind of is a little added incentive, a little extra something that you can do. A
little extra fun.
But anyway, at any rate, no matter what you're collecting, these achievements and these certificates, and basically you can say to yourself, well, I walked X amount of kilometers when I was in Germany, or I did so many events. And being part of a club, like Jim said, makes it a little bit better too, because our Ramstein Roadrunners Club, which we're members of, it was definitely started because of the military community, and it's both a German and American club, and it actually helped us get our residence permit in Germany.
That's right, because
the Germans believe in health and fitness, and they want you to be part of a sports club, and that's the sports club that we are part of and very active in, actually. And every month there's a meeting, and they have bus trips, and so it's not only a physical club, but it's also a social club, which is, I think, very important too. There is that social aspect.
You don't have to be a member of a club to do a Volksmarch. If you're just visiting Germany or France or one of these other IVV countries, and you want to get out and do some walking, and you want to experience a little local culture and like that social aspect of walking, you can easily find them on the different Volksmarching websites for the countries, and find one that's nearby and just show up and say, hi, I'm here for your Volksmarch, and go do the walk and have fun and meet people and get out in nature, of course. Like we said, there are hundreds and hundreds of trails that are well marked. You don't have to do it in an official capacity like this, but it adds that level of community, I think.
Community and accountability.
And it turns it into an event as opposed to just going out and walking.
Yeah. And you always meet really interesting people. The tables are very large tables when you're at the start and the end.
Like fest tables.
They're sometimes they're fest tables.
But
sometimes they're just big tables, but they're always big. And there's always multiple people sitting at your table. So you can talk to them. Almost everybody speaks English, and they're more than happy to welcome you to their town. And you can ask questions like, whatever you're interested in finding out about the area. We've spent the night in different places. We've done just day trips. We've done it in a million different ways, actually.
Yeah. And
it's just fun to get out and really see something that you wouldn't normally see on a normal trip to Europe. And I think that especially if you like to hike or if you like to walk, it's a good way to stretch your bones and, just do something a little bit different that's not on most people's itinerary. So I think that that's a good idea. And if you live here like we do, it's a great thing to do because it keeps you all through the year, even during the dreary months, keeps you going out and doing things and just having a good time. It's a lot of fun.
I really like doing the permanent walks where you'll have a place where you're going to start that's usually a business. It could be a tourist office or a gas station or a bakery where you're going to get your start card, and there's completely different expectations or what you're going to get from that start area. You might get a piece of paper with the instructions very clearly written in German that are easily translated on your phone, or a route map or something like that. Or you might get nothing. And so what we've found is the best way to do the permanent walks is to go onto the German Volksmarching website, find the permanent walk, find the start location. They almost always include a file that you can import into your Google Map. That gives you the route on your Google Map. So you go into it with that. So if you don't get anything from the start area, you've at least got that route. And then you follow along and you're looking for, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt in a way. You're looking for the little markers that are going to tell you the turns on the trail. And you're also looking for the self-control signs, which instead of a place where you show up and they stamp your card, you'll see a sign along the trail that has a number on it that you have to record on your card. And then when you're done, you turn that in and you get your credit. So we've walked on some where a 10-kilometer walk, we've gone 8 kilometers and we haven't seen a control sign. And we're like, oh no, did we miss something? Do we need to go back? What are we going to do? We just keep walking and, oh, there's a sign. Almost always after we start freaking out about it, we see a control sign. And then you're good. So I really like the permanent walks, and you can do those anytime. You don't have to wait for the weekends. So that's a good way to get your exercise in during the week if you have.
Well, and they have walks, like we said, they have a permanent walk in Rotenburg ob der Tauber. How many people have that on their itinerary? Tons of people. The same thing with, there's some walks in Munich and just places like that. And it's kind of a great way to get out and explore places that you would never explore otherwise. And even within a city like Rotenburg, you're going to go on paths that you would probably not have done if you just went in and explored the town.
That's right.
So it's well worth it. And I think it's a fun way to really get more intimate with the German culture, because the German culture is very sports oriented and especially walking oriented. And you would notice that on any event that you go on. So we've been talking about Germany a lot, and that's mainly because that's where we do the most of them and that's where we live. But we also live on the French and Luxembourg border, and Belgium's not too far away. And those are very active Volksmarching countries as well. So we've done plenty in all of those ones. We've done Volksmarches in Austria. We just did one in Italy. And we have plans to do them in a few other places. Oh, one of the most interesting ones was in England.
That's right.
Looked it up and we found a permanent walk that we could do. And then I contacted the people and they were very accommodating, but I found out that there was also an event one. And even though I like the permanent ones, I would
prefer an event for sure.
I like the event ones a little bit better because of that social aspect and because, it's just special. It's they're only doing it once a year or whatever. But we were met there by the people who were running the event, and they were so kind and so accommodating, and they didn't even want us to go out on our own. They gave us a list of directions like you would have if you were going on a permanent walk, and they were afraid that we wouldn't be able to interpret them. And by the way, they speak English in England, so we thought that was a little odd until we read the instructions.
You start reading the instructions,
they were absolutely correct. We probably would not have found our way back. But that was really interesting.
I agree with you on that one, 100%. At the time, I'm like telling them, yeah, we could probably do this. But looking back at the end of it, well, first of all, the route isn't marked like it is on a regular Volksmarch.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't really
most
say
countries.
That. Yeah.
In Germany and in Belgium and in France and all the ones we've done in this area, the routes are very clearly marked for the event. So there'll be streamers hanging on a tree or arrow signs written on the road with chalk, or it's just very easy to follow. You're not going to get lost.
Plus, there's lots of people on it with you.
Yes, exactly. So you're following someone almost all the time.
Yeah.
Not always, but usually. And the permanent walks that we've done in Europe as well have been
well signed.
Pretty well signed.
Maybe not quite as well
There's
signed.
There's been a couple of times where we had to double back and look for a sign or follow that route map. But they're signed. There is an IVV sign or something that's very obvious that you're on a Volksmarch. That was not the case in England.
No, they don't do that at all.
Just the regular walking trails that everyone can access. And they come up with very specific markers along the way that are already on the path, not added to it for the walk.
Not markers, more like landmarks.
Landmarks, that's the word I was looking for. Exactly right. Like a finger post or a YTP, a yellow top post, or...
Which we didn't know any of this stuff before
There's so many
went.
that were like, okay, this is like a foreign language to us. I know they're English words, but they don't mean anything.
Right?
So having them on
they
that
actually
walk,
walked with us, and it was really nice because we talked to them the whole way.
Oh yeah, we chatted the whole way. We just had such a good experience.
We really did. They were wonderful.
Probably we lost is not really the right term because there's no controls either. You just walk the whole walk.
No, they just know. You leave. They know it takes about 2 hours to do a 10K. They know it takes about 4 hours to do a 20K.
Yeah. So even if we had gotten lost off the path on our own, I mean, we could easily pull up Google Maps and see where the starting point is and work our way back to the starting point. So it wasn't like we would have been lost in the British
Well, and they also said they would have come looking for us.
Oh, yeah. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
When you start the walk, everyone has a card that normally you would keep it for yourself. And then when you get to a walk, you give them your card. They keep the card so that at the end, if there's any cards still in the box, they know someone's still out on the trail.
Right.
So we filled out a card specifically for it, and we got to keep those. We have those cards still somewhere.
And we'll use them again, hopefully someday.
Yeah. But it was an interesting way to see just the whole idea of a Volksmarch in a completely different light.
But, I keep going back to it being a cultural activity too. So in Germany, it's cultural in that when you're walking on the path, you say Guten Morgen to people. You sit there and chat with them at the start and the end and at the controls. And as you're going, you can, usually you might say a couple of things or there's a little joke. For example, if there's a hill, you're going up it. So you don't have to worry about the marker because if there's an up and a flat or a down, you're going up.
Yeah, right. If there's a question.
If there's a question. And like I said, it's in cute little villages. They always have at German ones, they always have great pastries, as Jim was mentioning. And they almost always serve at lunch. They'll have like wurst, or they'll have pea soup, or they'll have
steak
sandwiches. Very kind of grill-oriented food other than the soup. If you go to France, they always have the best lunches. They almost always will have some kind of local ham. They're very much into their ham. And they'll always have baguette sandwiches. In Luxembourg, again, they're much more into the sausages and things like that. And everybody, the whole town comes out to support them. So like one time we were in this little tiny village in France, and we're sitting at the table that was sort of like all the locals in the town. And the lady was like, well, where do you live? Well, we live across the border in this little town that you've probably never heard of, but they're just so welcoming and they're so proud of their area. And sometimes there'll be a couple other people selling little things or, it's just really interesting. It's fun. And they definitely will advertise different things that'll happen again with that club. So you can find out information that way. It's just a lot of fun. And as I was telling some friends of mine, what I really like to do, and this is what we do, especially with the permanent ones, we'll look up, we need to go on a little excursion, and we'll look up a permanent walk. And this is when we'll walk maybe a shorter one, like a 5K.
Yeah.
And especially if people are visiting. And we'll go to, say, Bad Dürkheim. And Bad Dürkheim is such a cute little town to visit.
Famous wine growing region.
Yeah. And so we had some family visiting, and we took them on the 5K walk, and then we went into a famous restaurant that is in in a wine cellar, wine barrel, and we had lunch there, and it's very good. And then after that, we went up to the castle because there's a castle in town. So it's kind of a nice way. But Bad Dürkheim probably isn't on anybody's itinerary by itself unless you live here.
Yeah.
If you're just visiting, it's probably not something that
It's not going to win out. Even if you're into wine, it's not going to win out over other wine regions like the Mosel or the Rhine River.
Well, and that a lot of that depends on how much time you have in a place. But if you have family visiting or whatever, and you have the opportunity to take them to some of these smaller places, it's just so cool to be able to see real German life that way. So that's what we like to do. Is we like to do the permanent walks, and like we just went up to northern Germany a couple weeks ago, and we did a walk in Celle, which is a really pretty little Hanseatic city. And we had a great time there and went to the palace and everything. But we did a little walk as we were going around the city. It's just fun. It's a good way to get out and maybe go someplace different than you haven't been before.
Yeah. And there's IVV walks like all over the world, which I didn't really know.
It's
like
very
I said,
active in the U.S.
Yeah. When we were walking in Germany in the 80s, a long time ago. And then we moved out of Germany. We were like, oh, Volksmarching's done. And in fact, I think we had several hundred, maybe even 1,000 kilometers that we had walked.
I had 2,500.
And those record books over time ended up disappearing because not everything makes the purge. But had we kept them, we could have picked right up where we left off. But what I'm saying is we lived around the world, all over the world. And if we had known, we probably would have done for sure walks everywhere. I mean, like 29 countries: Australia, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, China, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Great Britain, Greece, Hungary, Italy, Japan, Korea, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Sweden, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Taiwan, and of course the United States. I had no idea. Even till today or recently when we started researching this, I had no idea that there were IVV walks in some of those countries.
Yeah. So now we're kind of, I wouldn't say regret is the word that I would use, because if you don't know about something, you can't really regret not doing it. But one of the reasons I really wanted to do this as a podcast this time is because, we learned about it and we do it primarily in Germany because that's where we live, but there are walks everywhere.
Yeah.
And now that we know them, it is definitely something that we try to do everywhere that we go.
Something we're going to add to our itinerary when we travel.
If it's available, we're going to do it because like we were just in England, we did one in England too, but we were just in Italy in the Dolomites and we did one in Val Gardenia. Let me tell you something about that walk. That was a beautiful walk.
Oh, stunning.
We went down this valley. There's a little chapel. There's like these screaming peaks on both sides of us. And then we're in this little forest and we walked through the town and we saw this little informational part of the park and just things that, and plus you get to, because you're walking and you're not trying to take pictures of all the cathedrals and and all the,
you're not touring.
You're not touring, so you have time to really look at the houses, talk to the people as you go by, watch the little girl jumping on her trampoline, seeing the cows and the goats in the field or the sheep or whatever. We almost always, when we're out doing this, if we're at an event, we'll usually eat at the event because A, I want to support the club, but B, I mean, it's very local.
It's usually
They're
just
cooking
good, cheap food.
It's good, cheap, fun food. But if we're going on a permanent walk, we almost always walk by like a farm stand to go, and we'll go back and we'll get eggs, or like we just brought home 10 kilos of potatoes and things like that. Or we'll find a restaurant that I'm like, okay, that has got a gorgeous site. We're going to come back to that one and we'll have lunch there. And it just helps you discover places that you wouldn't normally otherwise.
Or even at one of those places, stop for a coffee and a piece of cake.
Yeah.
With a beautiful view.
In the middle of the Volksmarching.
Yeah.
That's true. We do that
why
too.
Not?
Yeah, we've done it all. At any rate, it's something that I wish I'd known more about.
Yeah.
Even during the pandemic, while we were in the States, if we had known about the AVA and the American Volksmarching Association, and
definitely could have gone out and done some permanent walks.
Done some walks in the United States. So, I mean, they're in all the national parks. They're all over the place. It is just such a great way to learn about things that are fun to do in whatever country you happen to be in.
Yeah, and get out and explore and enjoy nature, get some exercise, and maybe a little bit of socialization at the same time.
So get out there and stay fit.
Start walking. All right. Thanks for listening to this episode of Streets and Eats. If you liked what you heard, please show us some love, hit the like button, and leave us a review. Maybe even subscribe so you don't miss any future podcasts. Also, we'd love it if you joined us on our Facebook private group, Streets and Eats, where we just have an ongoing conversation about all things travel. Ciao for now.